Oh, the bright lights. Well, thank you to Couchbase for inviting me along to talk about what we've done with Couchbase. Hopefully I'll spend about 25 minutes talking about what we've done and where we went wrong and what we did right. So, I hope it's going to work. So, how we learned to tame Mickle. We didn't really tame it. We're just using it. So I thought it might be useful to have some background on me. I've spent most of my life working in GIS, which is sort of early big data, if you like. So managing, maintaining, implementing, enhancing those systems. But also, the last few years, I've moved away from GIS and SatNav, and now look after the delivery of change to Centrica's field engineer workforces, particularly the back-end solutions that support those. My current title is Head of Integration Delivery at Centrica. That can change at a moment's notice. And outside work, I realised that after my daughter left for college, I suddenly realised that I was a much taller version of my father, who wasn't the most svelte person. So I've now taken up hiking, running, and scuba diving. So I might make it. So, but enough about me. Talk about Centrica. I think most people in this room will have heard about Centrica, but we're an energy and services company. Our tagline is that everything we do is focused on satisfying the changing needs of our customers. That's pretty similar to lots of taglines in different companies. But we include direct energy in the USA and Canada. This is the largest residential energy retailer in North America, and it's the number 2 in power supply to commercial customers in the US and Canada. We also have Bord Gas in Ireland. This is a supply company, but it offers a range of gas boiler maintenance services to customers. And Centrica Energy, which is energy, marketing and trading, exploration and production. That's the upstream arm of Centrica. And of course, British Gas, which is B2C, B2B, utilities, home services, and smart homes, which is the biggest part of our company. So a bit of about the company history. We're an old company. We started in 1812. This is where we trace our history back to, with the Gas, Light and Coke Company. It was founded by an immigrant from Germany, a man named Frederick Windsor. And to give you a sense of where this sits in history, Britain was still at war with Napoleon, and the 1812 war between the USA and the UK was just starting. It's over now. In 1948, area gas boards were formed after the Second World War as part of the nationalisation. 1972, British Gas was formed from all those different gas boards. 1986, we were privatised, and 1997, Centrica was formed as part of a demerger. And so we moved into telephony, consumer finance, plumbing and drains, roadside services, upstream energy and services, and what we now call new energy, solar, ground source heat pumps. We have increasing global presence, about 35,000 employees globally, and our revenue is about 36 billion. So we're quite a large company, really. So I'm going to concentrate on the British Gas brand and how Couchbase has made a difference to us. We're going to look at the challenge we had and how we approached it and delivered against that challenge and what we learnt along the way. And we'll be honest about what we did right and what we did wrong. So we've got about 20 different workforces. They range from 20 people to 8,000 members of the workforce. Overall, about 15,000 employees working in the field. Each of those workforces has a diverse role, and there's quite a limited sharing of resources between those workforces. So they were already set up as lines of business. So we have the British Gas Home Services team. They go out and service boilers and look after appliances in the home. We've got Dynarod, slightly less pleasant job. They clear up drains, and and we have other businesses like solar and well, there's 20 different units. But we have a number of different back-office systems. So we've got Oracle Form Solutions, we've got bespoke middleware. We've got SAP and SAP and SAP middleware. We've got Microsoft CRM with no middleware. And Salesforce is pretty standard mobile integration and SharePoint solutions. Some of them are very modern. They've only been put in the last year or so. Some of them are up to 20 years old. So with the main field systems, they are getting pretty old now. And each of those workflows has their own requirements for planning, scheduling, and optimizing the schedule. But they're all separate. So you can see our data is going to be held in a number of different solutions, and it's used for different purposes. So some of these workflows have seasonal variations in demand for their jobs, and some of those skills, some of the workflows have the skills and qualifications to work in other areas too. But at the moment, they can't really work across different teams. We've investigated approaches to bring our workforce management solutions together and found these to be very cost challenging. So we wanted to find a way to provide our engineers with the same information that the office workers had access to. So the office workers in the call centers have centralized systems. They know exactly what interactions the customer has with us, what product holding it has. This information was not available until recently to our engineers. So I want to talk about the action we did take. So a couple of our IT thought leaders back here 3 years ago now had a vision to expose relevant data in a secure, consistent manner across all of our systems and processes. From an IT point of view, our mix of old and new technology in the landscape will be challenging. So here's our target architecture. We started talking about a multi-channel service platform. So provide consistent information across different channels, mobile, call center, website, and others. We've not necessarily delivered to this architecture. It is important for us to have a target to aim for. I want to show you this slide. It shows what we have delivered. You'll see that we've done something a little bit close to this vision, but perhaps the detail of how we got there has led to some differences in where components are situated within the architecture. So we put together a small team and just see where we ended up. It's quite a different way of working from Centrica. We've usually been quite structured. This is more about move from R&D to a production platform. So this, we're going to talk about the journey we went on and the solution we have. So we had some challenges. Common customer information was the objective. We started hitting the obstacles. Our operating model was archaic. We didn't have a really good business case. We didn't have an agreed solution. Technology and our vendor choices were up in the air. So we ring-fenced the team. We challenged them to deliver a prototype iOS app and back-end services. And two key challenges were popped up, and also, which is security and business buy-in. So security, there's GDPR, of course. We had our security team, not always the most cooperative. We present options, and they would shoot them down, but they would reject them. So we actually partnered with them, and we made them part of the team. And we also had to get business buy-in to build the roadmap. It's exciting and challenging for them. It was a different way of working. They've always been working in a very structured way where they fed the requirements to the IS teams, and this was the IS teams coming back out and saying, you need to do this. So what do we actually deliver? We call it the Customer Information App. That's my hand there. We put this in the hands of our engineers. It shows data consolidated from all the different back-end systems. So irrespective of what business unit they come from, where the data's coming from, it's all in this one app. Between 55 and 75% of engineers use the Customer Information App every day. It's part of their routine. Basically, before they go to a customer, they look up the customer information, and they find out information about the customer, such as what the customer interaction has been with us. Is it a positive experience? Are there vulnerabilities with the customer? Are they blind, deaf? What is going on with that customer? And are they sensitive? Do they need to put overshoes onto their feet before they go in? And instead of having an awkward conversation with a customer about whether the customer had energy with us, they can now start to talk about, yes, they do have energy with us, and what's their experience like. It's a very targeted conversation, and it's a much easier conversation for them to have. And we've had millions and millions of customer lookups since launch. And And the best quote I think we found is, one of the engineers said, before the CI app, I had to ask our customers whether our customers took gas or electricity from us, and now I can thank them. So, but actually, we built something great that the corporation didn't know it needed. It was fast, reliable caching and delivery of data, very secure access to sensitive customer data, and flexible model for integration. So on top of Couchbase, we built an API gateway. So from the bottom up, we have a Hadoop-based data lake. It's a growing repository for data from the line of business systems. So everything pours into there from all of our line of business systems, including SAP. Couchbase is probably using a subset of that data. So we don't take everything that's in there, but we do take a subset, but only what we need. So we've got a Spark-based loader for merging the records. We dedupe the data, and we create a single view of the customer. We expose the data out via APIs through the microservices layer, which in turn is exposed via the API gateway. And the first client of the service was one we built, so we had to build this whole stack up just to service the customer information app. But since then, we've seen a large increase in the use of the service. So this slide is a bit out of date. We now directly expose APIs to the line of business systems. So not only do we expose through Couchbase, but we also expose directly to the line of business systems. So from the top, we've got a customer information app. We've got the customer information app is now using the call centers. It's much faster than looking up on the core SAP systems. We've got a connected boiler app. This is where there's intelligent smart boilers. We have a couple of clients for our field forces. They use Couchbase as a fast caching layer for their job data. And we have the contingency apps as well. So because we have so much of the data inside Couchbase, it's used as part of our contingency. So it was a slow burn, but the team delivering successfully to the business. We've seen a big increase in demand, both for the data we collect and host, but also the stack we've set up. And the stack is important. So it's secure off-domain access to HR tools. Insurance partnering, so we can offer our loyal customers better prices. Identification of data errors is part of the process, because as soon as it becomes collated into one spot, we can really identify where there's problems. And we enable the art of the possible by removing obstacles we previously thought to be near insurmountable. Right. And it's becoming a key component of the ongoing digital transformation, including omni-channel solutions. Sounds good, doesn't it? So here's a sunny upland. But so success brought more business to the teams. Field engineer work management apps. But our software engineers had experience in relational databases, and they were on tough deadlines. Nickel sounded good, but it was an unknown. So they jumped in. And it was because they were struggling with key lookups, the whole concept of that, and they were under tremendous pressure. So we didn't control what the development teams were doing. We just gave them the keys and told them to just dive in. We should have considered if they knew how to drive, and they said they could, but not this sort of database. So I've elected not to show you some of the more exciting queries they created. They were impressive. They were horrifying, actually. There were nested queries, very few matching indexes, multiple primary indexes for dynamic queries, and so on. We ended up with a really, really complex solution. It was terrible performance and a rapidly diminishing reputation. We had to do something, and fast. So essentially, Couchbase went from hero to zero rapidly. The use of Couchbase was being questioned. So we reached out to the Couchbase professional team, which are those guys on the left-hand side. And so we got them working directly with the development team. It took time. So we coached the field application development team using people experienced in our own Couchbase. We moved to key value lookups wherever possible, so we took the documents out, we edited and put them back in rather than update in situ. We allow the development team the time to test and learn through their experience. And as my post-grad university supervisor used to say, if you can't make it a good one, make it a thick one. So we've changed the environment configuration, and we're moving the services to bigger kit. So it's worth mentioning that we're on 4.1 at the moment. So the patients, with testing, learning, and coaching, we've got through this. So our lessons. So always make sure your people know how to manage a NoSQL database. It's one thing to give them the tools, but you need to teach them how to use it properly. Plan how you use Nickel. The ability to create and use SQL type queries is really, really helpful, and we use it quite a lot still, but we use it like a surgical knife. You use it when it's needed and to ease your use of Couchbase. Upgrade as soon as you can. So Couchbase is a very fast-moving product, so as soon as you hit issues, you may find that Couchbase themselves have already solved the problem in later versions. So, our use of earlier versions slowed us down. We were reluctant to move on because we wanted a nice stable platform. So we're moving to 4.6, and now we're looking to move to 5 as soon as possible. And consider a mixed estate for some solutions. So it doesn't have to be all Couchbase. It can be, you can go with the traditional SQL as well. So we've changed the way we operate our Couchbase estate. Previously, we had one big cluster. So instead of one environment that does all, we now have clusters that support different patterns of use. So we've got backup clusters for semi-master data, as well as shared performance sandbox and test clusters. So this is just an example of our environment. So it's some of it's in place, some of it's we're building now. And that was pretty much it, really. Anyone got any questions?
So, my name's Tony Hillman, by the way. I work for Couchbase. So, you told us there's some of the lessons you learned and the problems you had to get over. You said train your engineers.
Yes. Yeah.
We provide. Thank you. So, you said train your people in Nickel. And you talked also about how we've moved from the 4.1 world to 5.0 and beyond, and it's much better. Do you think the facilities we are providing now would significantly have helped you avoid those problems? Is our documentation, our training, our information provision better? Or do you think the complexity of what you're trying to achieve would still give you problems?
I think part of our problem was our naivety. So the resources were available from Couchbase from day one, but it was our naivety that we didn't recognise that we needed them. So it was only with experience of seeing the problems we found ourselves in that we had to go down that route.
Could we have busted through your naivety somehow proactively?
But potentially, but you'd have had to know exactly what we're doing.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Yeah. So it wasn't a problem for Couchbase. It was our own naivety about how we're using Couchbase. It's worth mentioning that actually, overall, Couchbase performance has been exceptional. It's only when we abused it that it started to break down a bit.
Thank you. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you so much, Alan. Much appreciated.